I think when you are on the right path in life, even a feeling of belonging, it's really primal. There's nothing like it. You can't quite describe it. But feeling that you are exactly where you were meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to be doing is powerful. And that's exactly how I felt then when all these things are lining up.
Hey, brave soul, it's your friend Chrystal. Welcome back to Her Brave Story podcast. Conversations that spark courage, heal, and celebrate the brave in every woman. Because women's stories matter. If we haven't met yet, I'm Chrystal Dawn, saltwater mama, woman-centered life coach, and storyteller. 6 years ago, I rebuilt my life from the ground up with a newborn in my arms. And now I help other women to do the same, to reconnect with their worth, soften into who they really are, and create a life they truly love. Each week, we sit in circle with artists, adventurers, entrepreneurs, and everyday change makers. Women living life on their own terms with purpose, passion, and play. Whether you're starting over or stepping into something new, you belong here. Today's guest is the extraordinary Bia Figueiredo, a Brazilian-born marine scientist, boat captain, expedition guide, speaker, and contributing author to Dear World, the new book from the Dr. Jane Goodall Institute, Australia. From protecting whales on the decks with Sea Shepherd in Antarctica, to guiding expeditions through the Kimberleys, the Amazon, and remote corners of the Pacific, Bia is a living embodiment of courage, conviction, and what she calls nature connection. She's worked alongside the legendary Captain Paul Watson, advocating fiercely for the ocean and all of her creatures. Bia shares what it means to answer the call, no matter the obstacles, and walks us through the synchronistic moment she met the Dr. Jane Goodall. This is a story of persistence, passion, and rising again. Let's hear from Bia. Bia, welcome to Her Brave Story podcast. We're so excited to have you today.
Yes, honored to have you here to celebrate life with me.
Thank you so much for joining in something new and supporting another woman and a friend doing something new. Can you tell us a little bit about where you spend your most time and energy?
I would say that my life revolves around the ocean and different activities in different capacities. So that's where I spend most of my time. Yeah, it's the ocean.
You're a beautiful ocean woman, and you're also a marine scientist.
I am, correct.
And you are a boat captain.
I am.
You're also a writer and an author and a speaker.
Wow. When you say this, it sounds so grown up. I've been venturing into these other realms as well. And I'm really enjoying it, just being a communicator, a vehicle for information that I find relevant to obviously the things that I think are very important to be communicated. And the angle of all of this is at this stage is nature connection.
Nature connection. I love that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about nature connection, what that means to you?
Gosh, so many different levels. In a nutshell, humans, as we know, started slowly wearing shoes and disconnecting from a constant connection to the ground and slowly having a more technological sort of lifestyle and spending 6-8 hours a day inside these beauties and forgetting about the fresh air outside, the whisper of the trees, how amazing it is to feel cold water on the body, those kind of things. And I feel that because we're such an integral part of nature, we disassociated from our essence in a way by living this lifestyle. And it's an interesting one because what I do as a career today is I'm a nature guide in different parts of the world, different environments, different ecosystems. I get to see firsthand what it is to take people out into the wild once again and watch them blossoming or watching them being a little uncomfortable or very uncomfortable, and how each person responds to being exposed to weather, to all sorts of things that are so not in our control anymore. Like you can't control the wind on a remote control like you do with an aircon, that kind of thing.
It's so true, the disconnection. And what I'm hearing is that the nature you're taking people into right now also includes quite extreme experiences, including Antarctica and places like the Kimberley that are really wild. So how was it that you came back into connection with nature and are now leading people into nature connection, including really wild spaces like Antarctica?
I come from a working class family. Dad traveled a lot. He was always a very conscious person. So was my mother regarding living. The word sustainability might sound a little bit cliche, but it is very fitting. We were very much aware of the use of resources and the amount of time we spend outdoors. By the age of 8, they were always taking us to the beach and making sure we had ocean time, which was my happy place. And I remember when I was 8, Dad got back from a fishing trip with my uncle, and in awe of this humpback whale that, emerged right next to the boat. And I could still remember like how much in awe he was. And I remember then I was 8, and I remember, this is what I want to do with my life. I want to spend all the time I can with the wilds or with the ocean.
Had you at that point seen whales before or known about whales?
Not just in books and hearing stories. My grandfather, when we were very little, bought this series of nature books for myself and my sister. And every month a new edition will get in the house. And so I had nature in my bedroom the best way I could. And at that point, I've only seen dolphins and turtles, but never whale.
Wow.
But I remember that describing, and I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I've done.
That's amazing. Even a secondhand description of such a magnificent creature had a really dramatic impact on you as a little girl. So you also spent 4 years working with and on the Sea Shepherd when Captain Paul Watson was part of Sea Shepherd.
Did.
That is wild to think. Even just hearing about whales made that deep connection. I know that didn't happen right away in your life. Do you want to share a bit about after you saw whales, how were you able to then make that connection to go on the Sea Shepherd? Was there anything that led to you going on the boat that propelled you in that direction to take such an extreme route, really, to connect with whales instead of going just on a whale watch? Tell us more about Bia's journey.
Dad had a sailing boat. He had a catamaran, and it was his hobby. We were all at the beach all the time while Dad was sailing, and me and my sister will be in the water literally until the sun went down. And there was this one episode one day where Mom was talking to a friend on the beach, and I was in the water with my sister. The waves are not huge, but we were body surfing a little bit, learning to. And I was about 10. I got caught under the set, one wave after another. And a child not having experience on how to deal with that, you panic and you swallow water. And then you don't breathe. And then I had a traumatic experience there. I got a little bit scared. And I found excuses to not go back to the ocean for a while with my family. And basically, I didn't want to have anything to do with the ocean for a few years, actually, throughout my teens. But at the same time, I longed for it. But finally I did, and it was through scuba diving that I reignited my passion. One thing led
Wow.
to the other, from scuba diving to free diving and bachelor in biological science course.
Mm-hmm.
And towards the end of my uni, I learned about whaling in Antarctica.
Okay.
Right. And I learned about Greenpeace, and I learned about Sea Shepherd. And the way my friend at the time described to me was a bit funny. He said, so Greenpeace are the guys who hug the whale after it's dead, whereas Sea Shepherd will put a boat in between the harpoon and the wire and stop it from being harpooned. And I was like, those are my people.
Wow.
Yeah, and I realized that studying them was no longer enough. So I got involved with Sea Shepherding Brazil a little bit. But when I came to Australia in 2012, I joined the local chapter in Byron Bay and worked as an onshore volunteer for about a year and a half. And an opportunity presented itself for me to join one of the ships.
Yeah.
I was meant to be there for 4 weeks. The person who interviewed me said, look, you can go for a month. There's a spot there for you. I said, great. That's what I want to do. I just want to give my time for these 4 weeks for the whales. I had no maritime experience at the time or very
Wow.
little. Just had a big passion, and I ended up staying way more than 4 weeks. I stayed for 4 years on board.
4 years, from 4 weeks to 4 years. That's a huge jump.
Yep. I joined the ship with a backpack and my pillow, and by the time I had to leave, I had so much stuff. It was a big chunk of my life.
I'm so curious. So you go from having an experience where it keeps you out of the water. Why did you get back in the water? Was it the whales that you wanted to get to, or was it something within you? Because there are many people, and there might even be somebody listening right now who has had an experience that kept them from doing something else in their life that they really wanted to do. I'd love to hear for you, what was it that kept you moving towards something that eventually led into you seeing an opportunity and even putting your hand up for it? Because there's a huge gap between when we see or know about something and then when we actually take action on it. Could you tell us a little bit about that process for you?
I can, and this is actually a great question because it's a common thread between the people that sometimes are sitting in the crowd when I'm giving a lecture or doing public speaking, and this question comes up a fair bit because sometimes life presents opportunities, and we're either brave enough or we think we're brave enough and we're not, but we want to try anyway. And it's really hard to put into words what I always felt about this big body of water, about the ocean, why it draws me, or why it always called me. And I'm sure that being a water woman, you resonate, you grew up on an island girl. So you know about this pull that you feel, but I didn't grow up by the water. My auntie had a beach house and we were there all the time, but I grew up in the city. And only now, I'm 41 now, and it's been less than 10 years that I actually understood that what I felt as a child in the city was completely normal for somebody who yearned for the ocean. And I felt like a misfit my whole childhood and my my teens and my early adult life, and then I said that there has to be a way for me to attend this call that I had. Middle class, grew up in the city. I made the opportunities happen for me. I chased them up. I made them happen. I got in touch with people. I've done my research and I was curious. When I was 21, my dad's youngest sister, she used to work with traditional communities, indigenous people in Brazil in the Amazon. She said, look, I've got friends who work with pink dolphins in the Amazon. And because you've done so well, I'd love to put you in touch with these guys and you can go do an internship in the Amazon.
Wow.
I was 21 at the time, so off I go. I pack up my bag and had one point of contact, and all of a sudden I am this intern after my first year of uni, living on a floating house in the middle of the jungle, in the middle of nowhere, working with some of the most emblematic cetaceans, whales, and dolphins that we have on the planet. And they're developed this big taste for the field, to being out there, to actually learning by watching them. I would sit down, and when I mean a floating house, it was literally a floating house. It was like a house on a barge. And late afternoon, when the dolphins started like becoming more active, I would sit just outside on the deck of the house with a little cup of tea, and I just watched them. I just watched them, and I learned so much just from watching them. I think living these experiences and stepping into discomfort, which it is uncomfortable. I'm in a place that is completely foreign to me. It's a jungle, it's hot and it's humid, and there's mozzies and everything in the water wants to kill you. There's caimans and there's piranhas, and there's, there's electric eel.
Wow. Even one of those, I don't want to get in the water with an electric eel.
Yeah. No. So it's all these things, and you're like, okay, if you educate yourself and you go that little mile, like that extra mile, just bit by bit, it's amazing what one can achieve. So that was my way back into the water, and then scuba diving, and then free diving. But when I learned about Sea Shepherd, I knew that I had to take action. I had to do something about it. And when I sent my first application to be on the ship, the response was, it doesn't work like that. We have tens of thousands of applications every year. And we have to go through them. So it might take a few years. And I was pushing. And I pushed and I said, look, I'm here. I'm in Australia. The ships are here. It's the first time the 3 ships are gathered in Melbourne. I have time. I can come as a volunteer. I want to serve. So I created an opportunity by trusting my intuition, which is very talkative, by the way. I have a very loud intuition. And I try and, honor that and listen to it and act when it's possible. But I feel that my journey, especially being a woman, even though Sea Shepherd was always very egalitarian with roles with males and females, still is a very masculine industry. The things that need grit and pushing through discomfort.
Yeah, so and physical strength.
100%. 100%. That I created my opportunities that I found were right for me. When one does that, one has to be responsible towards it. So when I joined the ship, I was meant to be there for 4 weeks. After the end of the first week, the bosun, who is the deck boss, and my direct boss, he came to me and said, would you be willing to stay a little longer? And I said, yes, I'd love to. And by the end of the second week, he said, and this is May, he said, would you be interested in going for a campaign in Antarctica later this year?
Wow.
And my response was, no. And he was in shock. There was thousands of people wanting to go, and he's in front of me offering me that. And I said, no, because I'm not skilled enough. I'm not trained enough. I can't take a spot from somebody who could come and deliver more than I could at this stage. And he smiled and looked at me and said, what I asked if you want to go, because if you do, I'm going to train you. And I said, of course I want to go.
Wow. I'm in bumps. That's not what I asked. It's a powerful reframe.
He said, it's not what I asked, because if you want to go, I'm going to train you. And I still remember it was 12 years ago that this conversation happened. And I still remember where, when, and how it happened, because it did change the course of my life.
You saying yes with somebody else's belief, like borrowing their confidence in you to say, you got this.
It's yours, yeah. And I took that, I put that in such a strong place, because I understood the responsibility that came with that. It was massive. What the activists do down there, especially in Antarctica, in such a harsh environment, that's not for the faint-hearted, that's for sure. And I tend to be quite responsible with the decisions that I make, and making sure that my actions won't have a negative impact. Unfortunately, I don't succeed all the time, but I try and be mindful of that all the time, of what's my role within this picture. I'm going to deliver everything that I have for this.
If you're listening right now and you know about Sea Shepherd or have seen something about Sea Shepherd and the work that they do, you might have an idea about what Bia's talking about. However, Bia, would you be able to share one story even with us about the kinds of things that Sea Shepherd does so that our listeners can understand this journey that you've taken is really from the safe shores to a very wild, rough, rugged, uncontrollable environment where there are serious implications?
Whales were the main sort of goal, like protecting whales was the main goal for for a long time, but it just expanded to all marine life pretty much. So the more vessels Sea Shepherd was acquiring, the larger the spectrum became on what is possible. I think if I need to put my finger on something, of all these 4 years, I've done multiple campaigns. At the time, there were 3 big ships that Sea Shepherd had, and I spent time on the 3 of them. But I was part of a very passionate crew that went on a campaign in the summer of 2014 to 2015 in Antarctica to actually look for illegal fishing vessels that were catching Chilean sea bass or Patagonian and Antarctic toothfish. It's a deep water fish, apex predator in Antarctica. It can grow quite big. It takes a long time to reach reproductive age, about 12 years. And as soon as they reach that age, they just stay on the very bottom of the seabed in Antarctica. And we're talking 2,000 meters deep, 2 kilometers deep. There is a legal industry for that. At the time, there was a fleet of 6 illegal fishing vessels catching just indiscriminately every summer, a lot of it. So Sea Shepherd went after them with 2 ships. I was on board one of the ships. The ship that left port first was the Bob Barker from Tasmania, and I was on board the St. Simon, and we had a problem with our crane, so we had to leave a week after. And these ships that were fishing illegally were being purple listed by Interpol. So we were helping Interpol at the time. And we ended up finding the most notorious of them all. Interpol was after these guys for 11 years. And we started like a chase game with them, with the Bob Barker chasing them. And the Sam Simon stayed behind. And we had to recover the fishing gear that they abandoned. It became a ghost gear. And we started pulling it up. We thought it would be a 24-hour endeavor. Then it turned into a 48-hour endeavor, and then 72 hours. And then all of a sudden, we pulled it up for 3.5 weeks, and we recovered 72 kilometers of illegal fishing gear from the water.
72 kilometers?
Correct. Yeah. It was about 50 tons of targeted species, which was Chilean and Patagonian and Antarctic toothfish, and a lot of bycatch.
So were you able then, in the retrieving of the nets or of this fishing equipment, creatures in there, did they survive, or were deceased already?
The fish, the targeted species, Chilean sea bass, they were all dead. There was one alive out of 50 tons.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Most of the marine life was dead, and a lot of we had like the big crabs coming up a lot. Fair few of those were alive, and we were carefully like removing them from the net and putting them back in the water. But yeah, it was one of the most sad experiences I had in my life for like an extended period of time, because we didn't stop for 3.5 weeks. Like we could not stop because the net was weighing on the side of the ship, so we had to keep holding it up,
retrieving it,
breaking it up, and spreading it around the vessel. We had all this gear on a ship that was not prepared to have that gear on board. It was shifting the gear around the ship was as hard as pulling it up. But I remember there was a day when our gear got a little bit compromised, and we were sleepy, we were tired, we were exhausted, we had frostbites and all the rest of it, because obviously it's Antarctica. But there was so much passion and drive to get that thing out of the water that it was amazing how quickly we got together. We brought our heads together to come up with a solution to fix that thing. And we did it. And I remember, as if it was yesterday, this feeling of how resourceful we can be if whatever we're doing has got so much meaning. This is one of the things that I've learned with all my years on the ships with all those incredible people was how quickly we can solve a problem with its meaning. So it was pretty special. But it was probably the longest campaign I've done. I think it was one probably out of the 40 plus years of that the organization exists. It was the most impactful, one of the most impactful campaigns we've done without even knowing what we were going to find.
Wow.
Wow.
The depth of that experience and how it's played into your ongoing understanding of not only the work you do, the purpose that you have in your life feels more evident.
I think so. It's really hard as well to come back from that. It's quite remarkable what purpose and drive can do to the human psyche in that extent.
On that note of purpose and drive, what's your purpose and drive right now, Bia, with this wealth of experience and the most recent work that you've done as an author and a speaker is also with Dr. Jane Goodall and the Roots and Shoots organization. So moving towards that, the reason I add that in here, because that story was so powerful and really we're getting to know a bit more about what has really built this inner fire to keep pursuing your passions, even though it's not only uncomfortable, it could be highly dangerous because it is so meaningful for you.
The way I see it is I had the opportunity to go and do all these things on the front line. And when the time came for me to step out and walk away, so actually I could open space for new people to come and serve as well. I don't feel that I've ever worked for Sea Shepherd. I think I worked with Sea Shepherd. I saw it as a hub that brought together a lot of like-minded people as a platform with resources so we could fulfill something that we all had for different reasons, or some of us the same reason within us. And I feel that since I've left in 2017, the best way to move forward with all these experiences that I had lived was to actually multiply them, was to communicate them, was to share with the world, this is happening from many reasons. The channels started opening for me to communicate in different ways. One of them was through public speaking. And I started doing a little bit of that. When I got into the nature guiding industry on expedition boats, I started lecturing, and I always bring it back to what is important for me, which is conservation. And in one of those talks in Antarctica 2 years ago, I had a group of incredible people from Australia who have an online education platform called Upschool. And if you don't know what Upschool is about, I strongly recommend you have a look because what they're doing is amazing. And a couple of months after I left that boat, Gavin got in touch with me, sent me a message saying, hey, Bia, Upschool is partnering with the Roots and Shoots department within Jane Goodall Institute in Australia on a book project. And there is a chapter with your name on it. Would you be interested? All these years went by, and I had the exact same feeling of responsibility that I had when Giacomo offered me to go to Antarctica. I hesitated for a second, and then I'm like, no, I'd love to. I'd love to be able to multiply and communicate all the important things. And so I did. And something really interesting happened on that same week, because all of this is happening in Australia, right? And I was in Brazil at the time. That same week that I finished my draft and I submitted, I got a message saying, hey, are you about by any chance? Because Jane Goodall is coming to Brazil. She's going to the Amazon, she's going to the capital, and she is passing by São Paulo very briefly, but I am organizing because they happen to be friends. This friend of mine, Thais, and Thais said there will be an event, and I wanted to come and meet her. And I was in shock. I'm like, these two completely opposite parts of the world with two completely different things happening. These people have not communicated with these other people, and on the same way,
Wow.
this is happening. And the common thread is this incredible, inspiring human being called Jane Goodall. And I made it happen. I bought a ticket and flew to Sao Paulo. I attended the event. Jane walks in the room. It was a small, closed event only for people who are somehow working with conservation. So it was very sort of intimate talk. And Jane talks. I cry the whole time. And when I finish, Thais calls me and says, "Can you please meet us here on the 5th floor?" And I get there, and Jane is sitting there, and I walk in, and I sit in front of her. And she's looking at me with the sweetest eyes. She was so tired. And she's looking at me, and of course I want to cry. That's all I want to do. I want to cry. But then I looked at her and I said, "Look, I rehearsed this moment in my head so many times, and all I can say right now is thank you for never losing hope." She smiles with not only her lips, but also her eyes. And that was a really endearing moment. And there was silence, and there was so much you could fit in that silence, in that absence of sound. There was an understanding that didn't need any words. And I'm crying, and then we chatted a little bit, did a photo together as a beautiful memory. And I told her, I said, "Look, I contributed with a book for the foundation and for the Institute in Australia." And she ended up coming this year, and I went down to Melbourne to see her, and there was a soft launch of the book. The book is called Dear World, and it's a compilation.
Dear World.
Dear World, and it's this book right here. I think when you are on the right path in life, even a feeling of belonging, it's really primal. There's nothing like it. You can't quite describe it. But feeling that you are exactly where you were meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to be doing is powerful. And that's exactly how I felt then when all these things are lining up, and the beautiful people behind the making of this book, Mahima and Ben and Nyla, they're beautiful people from Melbourne who work for the Jane Goodall Institute here in Australia, and deep respect for them. And now we are in the process of launches, and there will be one here in Byron Bay, which we're very excited about.
Can I come? Can I come to the launch?
You're going to get the first invitation.
Yes. Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you also for not losing hope and to continue following your passions and doing your great work, and that persistence as well, leading you into even more greatness and collaboration with Dr. Jane Goodall and other women who have dedicated their lives to enriching the lives of all beings on our planet and preserving wild spaces, as well as cultivating a culture of caring and kindness and awareness around our own responsibility and impact on the world around us. Having the courage to keep going, even though things have been really uncomfortable. You've actually worked in some really masculine spaces, including working as a boat captain, and now even working in Antarctica, coming into these places where women are still carving out spaces for ourselves. We're still on the front lines of an egalitarian society that is at this point not where we are, but where we want to go. Could you speak to that for women and girls who might get a deeper understanding of what it takes to persist through male paradigms or masculine paradigms in order to bring your femininity to this? Can you speak to that?
100%. There's a few different moving parts there, but I learned right at the beginning of my work on the ships, I learned what I did not like on leadership, on the leader. And one of the things that I learned quite early was the fact that I believe that respect is to be earned and not imposed. And when I got to be on a leadership position, I really tried to implement that on my leadership with others, either male or female. And at the time, I was listening and reading a fair bit of Brené Brown. What does it take to be vulnerable?
Yes.
What does it take to be vulnerable and exposed and, naked in the arena? How do we navigate shame, and how do we navigate vulnerability and exposure? Nobody likes to be exposed and vulnerable. It's not safe. We want to be safe. Safe is primal. But I think that that's also the key for self-confidence and to do things that need to be done with kindness towards oneself and towards others as well. And that brought calmness, that took away the edge, that took away the aggressiveness, that took away so much yucky sort of things that actually got in the way, because sometimes you're so angry and you're trying to prove yourself so hard through the wrong channels that you end up making severe mistakes. You compromise your health and your safety and the others as well. So I learned as I went. As a bosun, eventually I was a bosun on the ship. So through knowledge, through educating myself, and through self-compassion as well, and opening myself up to learn from others. Otherwise, it gets really lonely. It feels isolating, because not only have to perform, and this is in anything you do, you not only have to perform, but you also, on top of that, you have to prove yourself in a way which you shouldn't have to. And I understand that still many industries and areas and careers, there's a lot of challenges that are faced by women every day to be able to be equal. My personal journey was when I softened a little bit and became human, like I'm human, And of course, if I'm dealing with somebody who I can see that is trying to not seeing, it's not acknowledging or valuing the way I'm bringing this to the table, then there's other measures. But I was a very independent person from a really young age, and I tend to not ask anybody for help. But these days I'm trying to actually do the opposite in life. No, it's okay to get help. It's okay to be humble and say, I need help.
And to collaborate. I'm hearing collaboration and
100%.
softening. And this is feminine power.
It is.
As well as to soften and to open and to be collaborative. I think it's a natural place for femininity to thrive and for women to feel safe enough to be in those spaces to really wield the power of the feminine is what I want to be a part of, helping to cultivate too, and having women in the world like yourself taking leadership roles, taking chances and risks, and creating even more opportunities for other women to come forward to these spaces and to not have to push and shove and exclude and feel isolated. As you say, it's so powerful to name that when we do soften and when we are collaborative, then things actually work much easier. The flow is there. And bringing that back into your nature connection, being connected to the flow of nature. I just want to thank you too for being vulnerable as well here and sharing so much with all of us. We're a collective here. And it's so wonderful to hear from you. And I'd love to hear if you have any advice for women and girls and anyone who might be listening who really needs the feminine medicine right now, who needs some of Bia's medicine in particular. If you have any advice for anyone who's up against a wall and has something they really want to do, or maybe even a dream, a calling that their intuition is telling them about, and yet there's some really, really serious, hard things in front of them.
I think, first of all, to be able to hear the call, you need to be really tuned into yourself. And as I mentioned before, when I started actually listening to my intuition, and it's there for a reason. It takes us away from trouble. Like it's there for like your survival instinct to begin with, But the more you tune in, the more subtle the roles of the intuition become in many different ways. Like just recently, I was in Rajampat. I was working. The boys jumped on the boat and said, late afternoon, we had a small window. Let's go find the manta rays. And I'm like, okay. I got really excited, and I looked at my drone, and I wanted it to use it, but there was something telling me, don't do it this time. Anyway, I picked it up. I took it out, put it up in the air, ended up crushing it, and that's it. But I had this feeling that not this time, don't take it this time. And it's such a little stupid sort of, but I remember like going back to my cabin that night, like, you know better. This is the, one of the most expensive toys you have. It's brand new. Crafted, But it's there for a reason. And again, the more in tune you are with yourself, the better you understand the call, the better you understand the path. And it changes, and it shifts, and it changes, and it's beautiful. And then you learn how to see beauty in impermanence as well. There's so much beauty in impermanence. When it's hard, we're going through hardship, we know that it will pass. And it will pass as well when it's a really good wave. It's that, amazing wave, it's going to end. You don't want it to end. You know what I mean? So it's impermanent and it's beautiful. Otherwise, how would you appreciate that one wave if you don't experience it? We're all individuals. You know what's good for you. You know what brings out the best in you. You know what, does the opposite as well. So I feel that was one of the main things for me is 15 years ago when I broke off from a relationship that was not serving me. And I actually moved to another country. Like, it was all scary things that I had to do, those big steps that felt right. I wasn't really sure how I was going to do it, or I did it because I felt that there was something so much bigger waiting for me at the other end. So trusting myself, looking for help in the right people, in the right channels. I never asked for hardship or pain not to come. I always asked for the right people to turn up at the right time, and honestly never failed me. Today we have the resources to go after what we want. There's so much information out there. There's so many easy ways to connect people and projects to actually seek for what's waiting for us at the other side of the world. I was born and raised in Brazil. I couldn't have come more far or further than where I was before, and it was a big call. And so many amazing things unfolded since I've listened to that call. As hard as the path might seem, as hard as your little, space, household or a job or school or whatever will pass, and you need to take action for the next step. What's the best version of myself I can be, and what do I need to do to get there? That's what I've done.
I love that. So powerful, and it's led to what an incredible life. Where can people find you, Bia? Where are the best places for people to find you, and what are you up to next?
With the opportunity that I have to be in many wild, amazing places around the world, I do have a big library. I do every now and again put the most special memories and moments that I had in these incredible places. I had recently a friend sending me a message saying, don't think I'll ever make it to to Antarctic in this lifetime, but it's so beautiful to be able to travel with you and see Antarctica through your eyes. And with that message, I understood sometimes the responsibility of us who actually get to visit remote places to be able to share that as well the right way. Do have an Instagram account called Beyond the Big Blue, and that's me. I do have a website as well. It's linked to my Instagram account. So I'll very soon also have a podcast channel. And then you, Chrystal, would be more than welcome to come in and share your amazing, brave story that I am personally, as a friend, super proud of. But most of the updates will be through my Instagram, I think.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And that's in the show notes for anybody who is tuning in here. You have all links to Bia and her amazing, courageous incredibly brave life and work that she's doing in the world. And you'll be able to find out about the Dear World book as well and where you can find that. And Bia, can you tell us, do you have a song or an anthem? Because one of my goals is to have a really cool Spotify playlist of all the great songs that people are rocking out to. And is there a song or a tune that you could tell us about so I can start creating this really brave playlist for when we don't feel so brave? I know for me, music really can shift my mindset. I just need a little bit of that. Boom. Okay, here we go.
Yes. Yes, I so hear you. And I easily slip into the depth of feelings and emotions. And so it's been happening since I turned 40 a year ago that I've been reconnecting with my ancestry a little bit, which is from that side is Spain. So I've been listening to Spanish guitar a fair bit, like the beautiful acoustic Spanish guitar. But there is a beautiful Swiss musician called the Nit, who actually sings super well in French and Spanish as well. And she's got a song in Spanish called Naturaleza, which translates to nature. That whole album, it's called Aliento, that has been my companion for a while now, and I feel to reconnect and drop in and get back into myself.
Beautiful. I love that. Naturaleza. I can already feel this, the guitar and I just want to lay back and listen to it right now. I'm going to go find it. And one more thing, because you are also a friend of Abyss and you have tested a lot of their suits. I'd love to hear if there's one suit you can recommend, or because we're offering listeners here, anybody who's listening and tuning in, the code can find that in the show notes as well with links to Abyss, and their swimwear and activewear is made from some of the things like the nets that you were pulling out of the ocean.
Premium geoprene as well, which is pretty cool.
I'd love to hear if you have a favorite suit or could recommend one for the audience.
Amazing. I'm super happy to hear you're supporting Abyss as well and vice versa, because I've been wearing Abyss for about 5 years now. I think my favorite is the Lottie spring suit. I literally take it everywhere. It's comfortable, it's long sleeves as well, and the geoprene is so flexible. It gives me a big buffer on temperature. I wear it in 18 degrees temperature and I can wear it in 26-degree temperature. I have the bikini as well, those parts, the neoprene ones as well. I have 2 or 3 of them, and they're super comfortable to surf, to dive, even just to just enjoy the water. So I'm super happy to hear about this partnership, because it's like living your ethos, it's living my ethos. I know the incredible people behind the name, and they too live their ethos. So they're water people, water family, and very well aware and conscious about minimizing impact when you're in the water.
So beautifully said. And I appreciate you, and you are exemplary in every way. Thank you for sharing that really beautiful testament to the work that Abyss are doing and your own experience with their products and the people that they are, in particular mother-daughter team. And it's so wonderful to be able to support women in business and women in entrepreneurship, women in the world doing and being, and we're celebrating here in the brave in every woman. So it's wonderful to participate in this space as it evolves and as it grows. And as we close out this session, I just want to say with the deepest heartfelt mahalo nui loa. Thank you very much for being here, Bia. I appreciate you. I'm so excited to share even more of the work that you're doing in our show notes. And thank you for having faith in me and the courage to share your story. There's so much that we can learn from the choices you have made and the responsibility that you have taken and the places of resourcefulness that you have gone in order to overcome so many challenges that have come your way, to continue to step into your power, to share your gifts with the world, and to share joy and have fun too, because that's what it's about as well. We really want to have fun and get curious and soften and continue to collaborate as we are here, because these stories matter. We're here listening like a fireside chat, and we're growing our own awareness of what brings us alive as we hear the gifts of our sisters. It's such a real pleasure, delight, and honor to be a part of the voices that are coming together and facilitating even more sharing of women's stories. If you can subscribe or share this with a woman who really could need some of Bia's medicine today, which I'm sure there are so many women out there.
And I'd like to thank you as well. You're not going to walk away just like that and not receive all my acknowledgement and all my and my respect, Chrystal, because it takes courage as well to speak up, and it takes courage to act on the things that you find true and good. And creating this platform for women to have a voice, for women to come and share like I just did, and give other people the opportunity to know that we exist, and, we're doing things that might inspire them to pursue a path that is well designed for them. They just need to go and get it. Right? Yeah, so thank you for deep gratitude and respect. And I also like to add, just very quickly, because I feel that this is important and it needs to be addressed, that I have withdrawn my the past couple of years my support to Sea Shepherd, and I have affiliated to Captain Paul Watson Foundation. Paul has left Sea Shepherd unjustly. The way Paul had to leave his own organization was not very fair and just by the rest of the board. So I'm now affiliated with Captain Paul Watson Foundation. And if you don't know what it is about, strongly encourage you to go and have a look, because this year we'll be fighting the good fight in Iceland for the whales. I just felt that was important.
That's so important and integrous of you, and your alignments with your ethos are continuous. Thank you. And thank you, Paul Watson, for continuing your work, even though you went to prison and there were many people wanting to stop you from continuing this work. And to all the people who are out there facing the hard fight, I want to just say this too. There are so many women in particular and children who don't have the choices we have. So we just acknowledge them too, and speak to that and say that there are choices that we're able to make. And some of the things that we're talking about that aren't possibilities for some women in certain places. So even more responsibility for us, sisters in places that can. If you're listening to this, let's keep together, cooperating, keep sharing our stories, keep putting them out there, keep creating as well. Let's keep creating beautiful things that bring us together and bring harmony and protection to those who have less of it.
Being a voice for the voiceless. I love you.
Yes,
thank you.
A voice to the voiceless. I love you too. Sending so much love, and you check out the show notes, subscribe, and all that cool stuff to Her Brave Story podcast. And you can find us online and in all the places. Thank you.
Hello.
Thank you for joining our circle today. I trust these lessons, sparked something within you, helping you to grow your greatness and reminding you you're not alone. If this resonated with you, please share it with someone who needs to hear her brave story. And if you feel called, subscribe, leave a review, and help us amplify the voices of women rising. To explore more from this episode, including a 10% discount on sustainable ocean wear from Abyss, head to herbravestorypodcast.com. You'll find the link in the show notes, along with guest links, resources, and more. I'll be right here waiting for you next time you hit play, with a smile and your weekly dose of Her Brave Story, because women's stories matter. Until then, remember that you're worth it, and thrive on, brave soul.